What is your full name and where are you from, sir?
My name is Craig Davison Craft. I live in Hertford, North Carolina.
Excellent. And can you tell me your business name and a little bit about your business, sir?
Well, my farm is Craft Family Farms, LLC, and I originally was mainly in the crop dusting business, and as time went on, we acquired some land and began farming. And right now, we're just a small farming area. We farm about 500 acres, and we're in coastal North Carolina. The land's really flat, and we're in an area where water management is the most challenging aspects of farming in this area.
How long have you been using OptiSurface at this point?
I will say it's been a couple of years since we started looking into the program, and our first project was completed about a year ago.
Yes, sir. What were some of the problems that you had before you found OptiSurface? Basically, what methods of land leveling and designing were you using before? What were some of the problems associated with that method? And also just your general water management problems that you had before, and maybe even if you weren't doing any land leveling or anything else, maybe some of the practices that you were using previously.
Well, in our area, I had no previous experience doing any type of land leveling other than just taking a 3.8-inch blade and pulling out, just by visual cues. And so all we've done is just patch a few holes and very rudimentary type things like that. The general practice for the area was to try to use conventional tillage tools to keep the ground level. So in our area, the people would use field cultivators as opposed to discs to try to keep the ground level. And then it's tradition here to run surface drains. We run some call it a hoe drain sideways to the field to try to get the water off. So that's pretty much what we're doing, is just running field cultivators sideways and pulling off ditch banks, 3.8-inch blade, and surface drain. And that's worked well for the area for a long time, but it's kind of putting a Band-Aid on a big issue. So when we saw that we had an opportunity to move into the digitally assisted leveling, if you will, the OptiSurface type program, when we started that, it really turned the corner for us on water management.
Excellent. To expand on that a little bit, what are some of the problems associated with the way that you were doing things originally?
Well, the way we were doing it before, you really weren't moving much dirt, and you were just trying to patch a few holes here and there, and it wouldn't last. Whatever you did, in a year or two, it was ready to do again. So you're constantly chasing your tail. And our area is really flat, really low land, and we have a really high water table with not much vertical movement of water. So ponding is a huge issue here, and we were losing much more yield than we thought to standing water issues.
What concerns did you have after you found OptiSurface, if you had any? Basically, did you worry that it would not work, or any other concerns that you may have had?
There was a little learning curve to it. We used the Trimble system. Since there was not a big base of knowledge in our area, we were kind of having to learn how to actually set the hardware up, how to run the software, how to do the data import. We had to learn everything from square one with telephone support from OptiSurface, but we didn't have any local support, any knowledgeable support in the area. So that was a big hurdle to get over, was just getting started on the first job, because we really didn't have a real good grasp on how to do it. Looking back, it's not that complex, but you don't know what you don't know. We were a little apprehensive when we first started. That's on the technological end. On the agricultural end, the main concern was we have fairly thin topsoil, so we didn't want to make cuts that were going to deplete areas completely of topsoil. And that was one reason that we found that we originally liked the idea of OptiSurface, because it's minimizing the cuts in the fields, and I think that's what makes it such a good fit for the area.
Excellent. And of the concerns that you had there, did we as OptiSurface deliver on those concerns for you?
Absolutely. The OptiSurface program works great. We're still kind of in the infancy of this technology, so I think as the local knowledge improves, I think it's going to get easier. As more people do it, we'll learn more, how to better use it. But in my opinion, it's still a fairly new tool that is nowhere near reaching its full potential yet. But on an individual farm basis, it's a wonderful program. But as an overall solution for agricultural water management, it's so new. I think it'll be quite a while before everybody realizes the full impact this will eventually have.
But the main thing is I'm going to expand on this question just a little bit here. we do have people that ask us on a regular basis, is anybody else doing this in our area? And we don't, and it seems to be a holdback. So I'm going to ask this question, and it's going to be pretty directed and pointed, all right? Without having any local knowledge around, did you ever worry for anything whenever it came to support from OptiSurface's side?
No, OptiSurface has always been there. They've been available through emails and telephone calls. But when you're the first in the area to try something, it's still if you're not a little apprehensive, you're not thinking. So
Absolutely.
So yeah, we had some apprehension, but we had good support, and two, there's every area is different as far as agriculture goes. So in the future, I think we might learn tricks and techniques that are essential in our area that may not even come into play in other areas. So like I said, I think there's a lot of room to grow. But as it stands right now, it's still a wonderful program and probably the best way to go for the most improvement you can do on your farm for the least amount of money.
Excellent. Thank you. What were you personally most impressed by when working with OptiSurface?
It's kind of strange. When the first project I did was I hate to call it severe, but it was a fairly involved project that really reshaped the entire farm. It really changed it a lot. And the most striking thing was, when we were doing this farm, and as time went on, you would go, it would rain or something, and you'd be away from the farm for a week or so, and when you go back to the farm, to see the difference that we made over time was striking. This farm had probably lost a third of its yield for the last 30 years to ponding, and after we got pretty much done with the project, we'd have a large rain event, and to go out there and see the ponding gone was just amazing. It was real striking. And the other thing we did was our area typically has a lot of ditches. To manage water in the past, the government encouraged digging ditches about every 250 to 300 feet. So our field size was almost always 250 to 300 feet wide. And we went in there and took out a lot of ditches, and now we have better drainage with less ditches. And the improvement in productivity is amazing. It's absolutely remarkable how much quicker we can plant, spray, and harvest this field with so many of those ditches removed. I think we went from 9 individual fields to 3, and the production is just a lot better than it used to be.
Perfect. Now, the next question that I would normally ask would be, what are the outcomes and benefits that were most valuable to you? But I'm pretty sure you just handled that in that last answer. So, that being said, how could we improve our service to you?
Well, what I look forward to most is more local knowledge. I'd like to see it more widely adopted in the area, and I'd like to see the guys in Australia do a wonderful job writing the programs out, and there is an issue with the time delay between here and there, because they're obviously halfway around the world. I think eventually it's going to be really nice if we can get local designers with local knowledge to sit down with the farmers and actually sit with them in the office one-on-one and go through the design philosophy and the options that are available on a particular job. I think in the end, I think that'll be a really big benefit. But as it is now, it's a great program, but I think developing the local knowledge and the local infrastructure would be a big plus over time.
We're hoping that interviews like this will give the people the knowledge to understand that this is a valued program, and seeing somebody in there will increase that number for you to actually be around there, Craig. So that's the hope. That's the hope as we go through. But now, just for clarification's sake, though, you can get a hold of somebody within the United States during normal business hours.
Yeah, we had excellent telephone support. I'd hate to know how many hours I wasted of your time, walking me through how to actually set the machine up and how to import the data, how to export the surveys, how to set the parameters of the Trimble to gather the proper information, and then how to set the Trimble so that it would do the machine control in the proper way. Because, like I said, we had very little local support on that because nobody was doing it yet. So OptiSurface has gone above and beyond, in my case, to help educate me on how to run my own equipment, which, they're not Trimble people, and they're not, they don't work for the blade manufacturers or the valve manufacturers or any of that, but they walk us through troubleshooting, setup, and all that. So we've received phenomenal support, and I have no regrets at all with going to OptiSurface for that reason. And also, there's a lot of local variation in agriculture, and we found that we have certain areas that the soil just has a problem draining, maybe more so than other areas. And when we had to increase our minimum slope in a few spots, OptiSurface was on the ball with helping us to do that and giving advice on where and how much we should increase the slope, and then also letting us know what the pros and cons of doing that was. There's a trade-off in every decision, and they've been real upfront and letting us know what those were.
Perfect. Craig, I appreciate your time today, man, and thank you very much. Anything we ever walked you through on the Trimble side, set up, everything else, that's just part of what we do, pal. But I appreciate the confidence in that support. So,
well, we never could have got started without it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Bart. I appreciate your time. Go ahead and get out there, and hopefully they'll get that blade hooked up for you. You can go out there and move some more dirt, pal.
All right, thanks.